Welcome to another powerful episode of Limitless Women. I'm Gina, your natural holistic mystic, a transformational coach, a certified leader of circles, workshop leader, retreat creator. What else do I do? I'm a keynote speaker at women's empowerment events. This podcast is all about letting your light shine. I wanted to navigate a new way, a new dynamic of communicating the needs of men and women. I think that there's a narrative at the moment that's going on in social media which states it's always men versus women or women versus men. And I wanted to change that narrative so that we could develop some compassion towards each other and a deeper understanding of just how we are and how we can communicate together. So I'm really excited because today I have the amazing Caroline Chenier. Caroline Chenier is a retired relationship coach. She's got 8 years dedicated to helping men experience better partnerships, romantic partnerships with their partners, I guess. I'm excited to talk to Caroline because of the work that she's done for men and how this really, really supports what I'm trying to say, in the sense that men are not all bad. There are men out there trying their best to do the best. And so, yeah, Caroline, over to you. I'd love to know, introduce yourself and let us know about that pivotal moment when you decided to go into this work.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on. Absolute delight and honour to serve you and your audience on this podcast. So, yes, as you said, my name is Caroline Chenier. I have a passion for relationships. I've always had a passion for relationships for as far back as I can remember. If ever I'm having a conversation with anybody, I go straight into the relationship, which is, obviously I have to just, be a little bit careful if I don't know someone that well, but I am always asking about relationships. And the pivotal moment really was I started off trying to help women, but in actual fact, it was the men that came towards me. And it was due to being on TikTok. I'd go on TikTok and I would talk about all the things that I talk about with communication, the issues that arise around communication, how we don't understand each other, how we need to be a bit more understanding of each other. And we'll probably go into a bit more detail of that later. But amazingly, it was the men that were asking the advice. Obviously, what I was saying was really hitting a nerve with them. So that's how it ended up being men. And, the poor sods haven't got a clue what's going on. That's the whole problem. It's not always their fault. It's quite often purely because they don't understand the species of a woman, and a woman doesn't understand the species of a man. That we are different in the way we think, and it's just a question of learning that and understanding and not jumping the gun when there's a problem. When someone says something to you, you don't say, "Oh my God, you're saying that." No, it's like, why are they saying that? Oh, it must be because of something that maybe happened in the past, and they think I'm saying that against them. In actual fact, I'm saying that quite innocently. And it's not just relationships. That's like anywhere.
And you know what came to mind when you were just speaking then is that we often assume why someone is saying something.
Yeah.
But when we're doing that, we're making it about us.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we don't know what they're actually thinking. We just think something
because
of how we feel, or how that whatever they said made us feel. Yeah. So then we turn it into, why are you doing it about this, or why are you doing it about that? And so you're saying,
you're saying that again. Oh, you're saying that against me. I've just said it instantly. And that's the trouble, isn't it? You've got couples that end up disconnecting completely because they fly off the handle about something which you've got no idea. And apparently you're supposed to mind read as well. That's the thing. You're supposed, especially women, mostly women, I in my experience in doing this, and also not just in doing training, coaching, but, in life, you meet people And you see the couple and they're going, the woman's saying, you know what you're supposed to do. And the man's hasn't got a clue. And she goes, so the man goes, why are you quiet? Why aren't you talking? You know why. And that's it, you see. And quite often, like if we talk about the sexual side of things, is that once that disconnect starts because of this at each other, the disconnection starts, and then the sexual side completely goes, especially for a woman, especially because the woman needs connection and the man doesn't realize that she needs connection, and then he doesn't know how to get that connection. He doesn't know what questions to ask her to know, perhaps even what the love language is, what does she prefer, it's those kinds of things that I was teaching men how they can get that connection back. Because unless they've got that connection back, they're never going to get anywhere. Never.
No. And I think you make a good point. If they go so far, I mean, if you don't work at getting a better understanding of each other, you're going to end up just miles apart and unable to get back together, unable to reach each other because you start to become strangers. I know that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So I would like to know about you and what you what one of the biggest challenges you faced as a woman. Yeah.
Okay, so my biggest challenge as a woman has been really marriage, because like we were saying just now, it's only now in this relationship and the work that we've both done, Gina, that this relationship is surviving. So other relationships in the past have failed because, and I now know from a childhood experience way back with commitment, my mother loved me so much. I mean, it's obviously lovely for a mother to love her child. Obviously, I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. What I'm saying is that as a baby, I must have been a baby. As a baby, I was smothered. And clearly, as a child, I must have found that very, very smothering. And so my subconscious mind, myself inside pushed back. So every time anything became a bit closer, it's like something they would do, they would say that I was attracting, and then that'd be it, finished. There'd be no going back. And it's only once I started understanding that your childhood traumas, or not even, even if you've had a bad experience as a teenager, or even as in your 20s, if you've had, some sort of trauma, that gets in the way of relationships. And so I healed that relationship. So my turning point for me was realizing that and becoming aware of this trauma. And now, I met someone in the end at 55 years old, 55. So, when people say, oh, I'm too old, no, it's never too late. But you have to deal with the trauma. You have to deal with what's stopping you from getting a relationship. You have to find out what that is. And I found out what it is. And now I'm, of course, in each relationship and in all my clients' relationships, things would come up. But it's how you manage. It's how you manage those times where there's a bit of tension. It's like, okay, you're behaving like this because of something I've said, which I've said instantly. And so when you get rid of all the anger or the crying or whatever, after 10 minutes or whatever, how long it takes, you sit down together and then you talk about it. And quite honestly, even with my husband, right, he's gone through 2 marriages. I'm the third because of exactly what I'm talking about. And he had no idea. So slowly, since he was with me, as I was a coach anyway, I wasn't coaching him, but little things that happen, little things that I would say naturally being a coach. And then he went off and had some hypnotherapy, actually, a proper hypnotherapy, not one which is just one session. It's like, a recording every night goes in your ear and rewires your brain to a different narrative.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when that same thing happens, it doesn't affect you because you've dealt with it. So he now, with his other previous, because I want to know everything. I'm always wanting to know about previous relationships. I'm not a normal woman. I like to know about all these things from the past. So in the past, they wouldn't speak for days, and but it's all resolved in 10 minutes now. It's all resolved in 10 minutes because we know how to handle it. We know how to handle it, and that is the secret. I mean, it all boils down to communication.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the thing. What you say is like, I've been really, really leaning into radical responsibility, radical humility, just taking accountability and things like that. Yeah. And I remember doing a show with men, and it was a men's show, but there was a women's section where we spoke. And I remember a lot of men calling in, complaining and saying things like, all women this, every woman that, every woman does this, every woman. And I remember sometimes they will repeat offenders, as so to speak, like calling in continuously about it. And one of the things that I came up with when I was listening to them, and I was really trying to show some compassion because it's their lived experience. And I think until you've done some of the deep subconscious work we've done, it can be very hard for people to go past a certain level with their own understanding of themselves. So obviously when I speak on the radio, I try to be really gentle about it. And I'd be like, well, that it's not all women. And they'd be like, no, it's definitely all women. I'm like, well, I don't think like that. So that's at least one woman that's discounted your theory. And I know I'm not alone in how I think. So I'm just trying to say that perhaps it's just been the experiences you have had. And if you're the same person, like the common denominator in all your past relationships, perhaps there's something you could look at as to why you keep attracting, which is what you're talking about. It's about going deeper and saying, actually, what's going on? And then you go in and you find your inner wound, and you start regressing, and then you start to find out what the core thing is that's been driving you unconsciously. But when you speak like that to some people, it just doesn't land.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. They're not ready. Land. And I've learned, Gina, they're not ready.
Yes. And I respect that. But the thing is, I felt because there were so many people saying it, I had this intuitive drive to say it. Now, the way I see it, even if a lot of people go, oh, that's rubbish, there may be someone that goes, well, let me have a think.
Yeah, that's right.
And if there's just one person, fine. You know what I mean? Job done as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
That one person, you know what it's like. You heal and you vibration it and the people around you, and it just spreads. So you don't need to heal the world, although that would be wonderful. But but if you could just start with one, which I think, but you did so many, which I was always so impressed with the conversations that, I know that you would, when you used to talk on your lives and stuff, and I used to see the work and the things that you used to come up with and how well so many people viewed them. Like, it was like definitely a space that was needed. And I think it's great because I don't know that very many men have a space like that, and it's led by a woman. Because I think a woman needing a space like that, or a woman giving voice to men, can sometimes be more, I don't want to say, I'm not saying that we're more credible, but it might make more females listen, because it's did you get people turning on you though? Women having a go at you for
no,
up for men?
No, there was one woman though that did ring me to say, I've done all the things. I'm doing all the things that you said. and it's not working. You know, so but you see, I think at the end of the day, what happens is that, right, so one person triggers the other, and then the other one will say something that will trigger the other one. And, you know, unless you have mediation or you have, you know, a session where you talk to, you know, you can't take what she says or what he says face value. You have to really, you know, go.
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember
Yeah.
when I was a social worker, and as soon as people knew I was a social worker, they'd start talking to me about something very personal to them, or someone else, or I don't know. And then they would want me to be like advocate.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't do that, because actually I didn't know the case.
Yeah, you
Don't know
see.
the social worker. I haven't got any evidence. And the worst thing you can do is lead someone on a path without having full knowledge and background. You know, you can't even support them properly. It's actually very unhelpful. So yeah, I totally get that. Right. What do I want to ask you next? So many things I love to ask. Okay, I know you're going to... Okay, what do you think a common misconception about women, or what do you think's a common misconception about women or men that you think we need to address in order to bridge the gap?
Okay, I can dive straight into this one. So for me, in my observations, it's where the woman, there's such a big disconnect with the couple that the woman doesn't even want to be touched. And the man just keeps on going to try. And what I tried to teach men is to not go for the juggler every time. You have to do it slowly. You know, you can't, you know, and so some women, you see, some women, the disconnect is so hard, they don't even want to have sex, nothing. They want nothing. So when the man comes in to give a hug or something, they're frozen because they think, oh my God, he's going to want it now and I don't want it. And that's what they have to learn, to be very, very patient, because it's understanding what the woman's going through. And of course, they have to understand themselves of how they are. The trouble is, they respond the way they would want. The man thinks that the woman wants what he wants, and it's the complete opposite. And that's one of the biggest mistakes, is the woman thinks that the man will think like her, and he thinks that she's going to think like him, and it's so wrong. You have to treat the other person like not like yourself, right? And so, you know, it was I can't remember the name of it now, where you have to go in very, very slowly. So that, you know, I was teaching them to start off with a very gentle touches or just hugs, but no more. You just...
Is that like tantric?
Oh, tantric's different. Tantric is where it can go on for like days and days, and you do not go for you don't do it. You do everything but it. And that's what keeps it going. Like once, because we all know, right? Once they've done the job, that's it, finished. And the woman's like, oh, you know. So with tantric sex, we go on. And I remember Sting actually brought this to light. You know, this is where we all first heard of tantric sex. He has a lot of it with his wife. It would last for 5 hours, you know, and that's it. You see, when you go to the point, but you don't do it, and then you keep doing that, it's brilliant sex. But it really is about letting the woman know that you're going to just kiss up, and that's it, walk away. And you've got to get her used to like thinking, oh, he's not gonna want to have, you know, sex now. That's all right, then I can let him do that. And it's slow, see, and the men like quick, fast, and it's just not going to work like that for a woman. If he loves his woman and she loves him, because there's, you know, they've got a disconnect, but they do, you know, they still love each other. That's the way to do it, and you have to have that patience. But yeah, that's it.
Makes sense. I've had an experience in the past where somebody's been a bit too keen, and it wasn't that I didn't like them. It's just that I just needed them to just calm down a little bit.
Yeah, you got.
And it was, in fact, that made me. And it's not that I'm a prude or didn't want to. It made me not want to.
Yeah, it does. It pushes them away.
Yeah, it actually pushed me away. Yeah, it actually pushed me away.
It's like those magnets when they're against each other. Is you become that kind of magnet. But you know, it's one of those things where the man has to let the woman do the driving. Like, even on a date, man should never ever go for it. Never. Because the woman will show you when she wants you. She'll take your hand. She'll put her arm around you. It's like, oh, that's the sign. Or she'll look lovely in your eyes, or she'll look at your eyes and your lips. You know, then you can kiss her. See what I mean? You've got to let the woman do the driving.
Yeah,
let the woman do the driving. She feels comfortable. The barriers don't go up, and you know that there are
so interesting. I'm going to observe myself now on dates. Like a little science project, because I'm in the moment at the moment. I'm in a moment of just having dates.
Yeah.
And I've been meeting some really lovely men, going for coffees and lunch. You know, nothing else more than that. Just gentleman company, nice cup of tea or whatever, and just talking. It's been really nice.
Yeah, my brother's doing the same, actually. He's doing the same. He's really enjoying it. He's meeting all these different people. They're taking him to a different part of London. He gets them to choose, you know, and he goes to a different part of London, meets all different people from different cultures. And it's really
nice. So I'm going to observe myself. I'm looking at a man's lips.
Well, look, if you go out with him a couple of times, he'll try. You know, I mean, I was going through a phase where I was really on it, right? So they knew straight away they could do, you know, because I was driving. I was giving them the, you know, but
there
are many. I mean, that was just a phase. I was in my sexual peak. I was like on that sexual train, and I couldn't get off the thing. It was going 100 miles an hour, and I just couldn't get off the bloody train. It was just a nightmare. The sexual peak lasted probably 8 to 10 years, and you know, I was quite happy, you know, having a great time. But as I said, I was doing the driving, you know, and if I didn't want to, because like there's one thing as well with meeting these people is that you might see the photograph on the dating app, and you might think, okay, but when you meet them, you just don't feel that energy. It just doesn't feel right. And some people say, "Oh, go on, you've got to give it a try." If you don't feel it when you meet the person, it's not going to come magically.
It's really not.
I mean, your energy is like, you know, you've got your energy and he's got his energy, and if they're going like that, fine. But if they go, it's just you can't do anything about it. That's how it is.
You can't force attraction, can you?
You can't. You really can't. Not
force it. It's either there, it's not. And attraction isn't always necessarily a look. It's just it might be just someone's way, some manner. Maybe I'm finding as I've gotten older that I think when I was younger, it was just looks. I don't think I paid much attention to what they were saying. If I'm honest, which would explain some of my choices, to be fair, right? But as I've gotten older, I'm finding that the conversation, I really need to connect with my mind. Not like we have to send each other Einstein test or anything stupid like that. But I'm just saying the flow of conversation and just interest. Yeah, it's changed. I think they said that it's called sapiosexual, I believe.
Well, don't forget you have different types of intimacy. You've got the sexual. No, what is it? Intimacy. Yeah, sexual intimacy. But you've got the intelligent intimacy. You know, so you know you probably going towards the intelligent intimacy. You know, there are people in what's it called? The tri relationship. We've got 3. You see, you're going to have a sexual intimacy with one, probably really explosive. Then you've got the spiritual intimacy, but then you've also got the intelligent intimacy. Now,
Oh.
You've got a couple. No, just think about it. How can you have all of those intimacies in? You're gonna have one that's more, dominant than the other.
Mm,
So when you're in a relationship with three people, you'll have, you might have you know, a very sexual intimacy with one of the people in that relationship. Then you'll have the spiritual one where you're just like, you just
mm,
connect like in that way. But then you've got the intelligent one. There are four of them. There's an intelligent one where you're just talking for hours and hours and hours, and you're
mm,
really connecting on a brain level.
mm,
And so people have to understand these different intimacies in relationships. If you're going to just have a sexual one, then the rest of it's not going to,
mm.
it's probably, if they're like I think my parents, right, they had a sexual intimacy, because if you look at the rest of them, they're all wound each other up all the time. They were from a completely different culture, completely, but up to 75 years old, they were still doing it. That was still really strong between them. And when I used to tell my mum about, when I was doing the coaching, I'd say, oh, well, they're not getting on very well in the bedroom. They're not, she'd go, really? I don't understand that. That's what she'd say. Because clearly, no matter what happened, in the daytime, arguments, whatever, they would still connect that way.
That's brilliant. Well, I love that story. I absolutely,
Isn't it
that is,
incredible?
that is a gem. That is a gem. But you see now, so what's the fourth intimacy that you never mentioned?
Trying to remember.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. So if it comes to you, we can come back to it. Just wondered. But you see, what's really interesting, if you don't have, but I feel like you're supposed to have all three, aren't you, in your relationship?
Well, yes, but how can it possibly? Not everybody, one size doesn't fit all. Not everybody's going to have all of those. Gosh, I can remember
Mm.
the last one. Hang on, I'm going to just Google
Yeah,
now.
because it's interesting, isn't it? Because if you haven't got, because right, okay, I've got it now. I've got it now. So to my mind, the intellectual intimacy, someone who well, because already in order to like them, you're kind of attracted to them,
Yeah.
right? So that bit's passed. Now, then you've got the intellectual intimacy. That
Mm-hmm.
builds into sexual intimacy in my eyes.
Yeah.
But then, do you know what I think may get missed a lot is the spiritual intimacy? Because you see a lot of women, and I remember this when I used to go to church.
Emotional intimacy.
Right. Okay. That seems very, yeah. Right. So I remember when I used to go to church and all this, I used to see a lot of women in the church. All their husbands are at home.
Mm.
None of them go to church. I've seen many couples like that where the woman goes to church, but the husband doesn't bother. And he leaves her to it. And I know that women are quite spiritual beings, and it makes sense that women might involve all of that. But it seems to me, knowing all four of these types of intimacy, it means that we should strive for a bit more when we're trying to get to know someone and connect with them.
Yes.
Because otherwise, we think sexual intimacy is basically
Practical, physical intimacy. That one, it's physical intimacy. The sexual one is physical intimacy.
Yeah, sorry, but what I mean is, that physical, sexual, whichever way. I'm just thinking about the fact that you have to be physically attracted and that, and you think the physical intimacy is important. That's been sold to us in Hollywood, everywhere. Do you know what I mean? It's the big romantic kiss, and that's when the kisses don't.
That's all we know. That's all we know.
That's so much. But actually, knowing these levels that you've just mentioned, it makes you think about them apart. And I think the reason I've kind of started to enjoy these apps is because I'm being so much more. I think it suits my analytical brain.
Yeah.
It means that I can take a step back and not be, because I think the physical intimacy is very distracting.
It is. You're absolutely
It's
right. It
so
is.
distracting. So for me, taking a step back to um, look at these other things, the spiritual, the intellect, the emotional intelligence, and all of these things, taking a step back to get to know someone and see how we really intertwine, because we don't have to be the same, but to see how we can work together and grow and maybe develop. That is really key. It's like the sexual intimacy is the least, almost, it's not least important, because it is really important to
Yeah.
me. It would be in a relationship, but I don't think that that's the first thing I need to go to, because it distracts
No.
me. So
Trouble is, you're quite right, because you see, when you say it gets in the way, it's the lust. The
yeah.
lust, it just overtakes, doesn't it? Like when you've got that sexual attraction, it's really difficult to switch that off.
Mm, mm,
But with the so with these different types of intimacy,
mm-hmm.
see, nobody talks about any of the others. Nobody talks about it. You
No,
recognize it. You might recognize it. Oh, see, I've got an auntie who's
yeah.
well, she's about 95 now, and her husband was, I'll tell you what he was. He used to speak Klingon, right? He used to speak Klingon. I can't remember his name
Proper
now.
dedicated. It's tricky, that one.
He was also is it rector, a priest type thing.
Oh,
And yeah, I can't remember what we call it now. But anyway, he used to speak, I can't remember, 20 languages. He spoke. Now he was a really big man. My auntie's stunning. Even now, she's stunning, right? And you look at the two of them together and you think, but all she would talk about is his mind, his intelligence. It's when I started learning about all of these
mm,
intimacies that I thought, God, that's it for her. It's the intelligent intimacy that she's fallen in love with, because it
mm.
certainly isn't the physical intimacy, you
Yeah,
know?
because you see some very different looking couples, and I have often wondered about that. And I think
Yeah,
that's kind of beautiful, because they've broken the mold of the norm and they've found something deeper than just the appearances that most people go,
yeah,
and most people go for that appearances, and they don't realize that there's so much more. and
yeah,
and like what you were saying about when you're working with these men in relationships, because maybe um there was that physical intimacy thing. Maybe they were physically so attracted to them and just didn't pay attention to some things. And
yes,
some of these things
exactly.
can be red flags, and we move past them, get into a long-term relationship, and in some cases people get married, and then the other stuff that isn't being met starts to pop its head up.
They're mixing lust for love. They think this is what happened to me. I
Yeah.
thought I was in love, but I was in lust.
Mm, mm, mm.
And then when the
Yeah.
lust goes, you see,
And that's it. And I
yeah,
think you can be not always lustful if you have had some other grounding in your
yes,
relationship, because even then I would say the lust can come backwards and forwards and up and down. But
definitely can. Yes,
yeah, but if you've at least got yourself grounded in the other stuff, that's what carries you through the longevity of any relationship.
uh,
It's not all, the lust ain't going to be there all the time. And you think about,
no,
I mean, I'm older now, I'm not having children, but there's all different things that can go on in people's lives. Stress, tiredness, whatever, and they
definitely.
don't feel lustful.
But
You
the thing you see is that, like, take a relationship where it's fallen apart,
mm,
and the man wants to please her, but he does everything wrong. Why? Because he hasn't asked her. What is it you love? What is it you love the most? Is it touch? Is it a hug you love the most? Is it when I say I love you? Is it when I give you a little come home with a bunch of flowers? These are love languages. But couples need to ask. I'm not just saying the man has to ask the woman has to ask the man. What is it that makes you
mm,
feel really loved? And I
mm.
go, oh, I never thought